Hello everyone. Welcome to Live Talk with SFBFF. My name is Jackie Wright and I am honored to be here. We instituted this program last year under the leadership of Kali O'Ray when we had to pivot and do everything over the internet and everything. So we have a wonderful guest today, but I did want to begin by acknowledging the San Francisco Black Film Festival for giving me the honor to work with them. Unfortunately, last year, in the middle of our festival, our leadership, Callie O'Ray, had an unfortunate heart attack, not heart attack, but a heart problem, and he passed away. So it was in August, it was the beginning of August, and 3 weeks later, of course, we lost Chadwick Boseman as well, and it was just a really very difficult time. But this year, the theme is the San Francisco Black Film Festival. The legacy continues, healing the world one film at a time, because we are fortunate that Callie O'Ray's daughter and son, Cree Ray and Callie Ray Jr. are going to be leading the film festival moving on, millennials moving on in the new millennium for the San Francisco Black Film Festival. So we are just so very pleased to be able to work with them. And we're doing what Black people do so often. We're working through our grief. We're working through the hard times because Callie O'Ray is truly missed. Just a very talented graphic artist, loved Atlanta, went to Clark, Atlanta to go to school, and came back and took over the film festival after his magnificent mother, Ave Maria, that's right, Ave Maria Montague passed. She was an arts impresario, and she created the San Francisco Black Film Festival in 1998. So we complete a little bit of our history here in this moment in time as we prepare to talk about our future. We are so blessed to have a producer here with us today that is going to be able to shed light on information in the entertainment arena that will help young filmmakers and other artists as well. So let me give you a little bit of information about Judy Klein, who is joining us today. Judy is a wonderful lady that has a heart to share information. She has extensive experience launching new brands, online services, artists, entertainment properties, and national initiatives to market. She has been involved in marketing, promotion, and distribution of over 55 filmed entertainment titles for both theatrical and home video releases. She is the principal of True 3 Media. It's a boutique marketing consulting firm that specializes in social media. And she has just a wealth of information. And she began with her education, Harvard University, where she is a proud graduate, and she's a proud graduate of the University of, with a double major from Howard University. And Howard has been really in the news lately. Felicia Rashad comes to mind. And of course, Chadwick Boseman, he's a great graduate of that school. So she has been in that arena learning a lot of great things. She has her executive MBA from Quantic School of Business and Technology, and she specializes in finance, data analytics, strategy, US business law, and supply chain operations. Judy Klein, welcome to Live Talk at SFBFF.
Thank you, Jackie. When you
Yeah,
said that, I was like, who is that person she's talking about?
I'm talking about you, and I'm so pleased that you are one of our new BFFs. Best friends forever at the San Francisco Black Film Festival. So we really appreciate you being here. I'll tell you, we've got a lot of great things to go over. Can't wait for you to drop those nuggets of wisdom. But I guess I want to start out, I just shared a little bit about you, but I want to hear from the horse's mouth. Tell us a little bit about yourself, college markets you worked in, where you spent the most of your work experience. Just just spill the beans here.
Yeah, when I was younger, the first thing I thought I wanted to do was be a doctor. And I thought, oh, I want to be a lawyer. I thought, oh, I want to be a politician, which brought me to Howard University. I came to Washington, D.C. to be a political science major. I wanted to come back to California, work in politics, and change the world. But one of the things that we often lose sight of as humans, right? Because we're caught up in our lives, we're caught up in our everyday worlds, and we're just trying to figure out what is that thing we can do to make a living and make a decent life for ourselves. But we don't embrace pursuing the things that we're interested in, right?
Mhm.
So as living, breathing organisms, and now I'm going to sound like I'm from Los Angeles because I'm being a little, hippie-ish and,
That's
high
all right.
elevation kind of
Be
stuff.
you.
But the reality of it is we are evolving human beings, right? You're not the same person you were when you were 3 years old or 5 years old or 15 or 25 or 30 and on and on and on. So what I did was I went with that evolution of what my interests were.
Mhm.
And if there was an opportunity, I explored it and I seized it. Because one of the things I've been blessed with is knowing from all of these incredible business mentors and these power giants in media industry and just in business in general, all of these people are very successful and very wealthy, but they don't do just one job.
Okay.
We call it a side hustle out on the street. We
Mhm.
call it, diversification if we're talking about finance. But
Mhm.
there are other interests and there are a lot of things that are doing, and a lot of times they're working on things that are making money for them while they're out making money for themselves.
Great.
So
That's very liberating. When you think about school, where growing up, they kind of tell you to stay on one track. You can't do too many things at one time. And but you're saying to really be successful, it might be good to diversify.
one of the things I learned working in a startup, this little tiny startup a million years ago called AOL, the more knowledge you had,
Hmm.
the longer your longevity in that arena, right? In any arena.
Right.
You think about somebody like Prince, my most favorite artist on earth. He knew everything about music. So to
Mhm.
come into a field and say, I'm just going to focus on this one thing, and I'm not going to learn anything about the business of entertainment. I'm not going to learn anything about distribution. I'm not going to learn anything about anything. I'm just going to sit here and focus on writing, or I'm just going to you're putting yourself sometimes at a disadvantage. For some people, that's fantastic. They can walk in and pick one thing that they need to know. But unfortunately, for a lot of systemic reasons, people of color have not always had that luxury to be able to focus on doing one thing. If you get offered an opportunity to work on a film, you seize it. It
So,
may not be being the assistant director. It may not be being the second AD or the key grip or whatever, but you seize the opportunity to learn and to get some experience. And you
you
have
know,
to be open to that.
Yeah, what I think about with that is it opens the door for relationships, because it's one thing to do a job.
Yes.
There's that tendency to say, "Oh, that's just a little small position. I'm not going to accept that." And I'm just reminded that there are some very wise words that say, "Do not forget, do not despise the day of your small beginnings,"
Yes.
because there's a lot you can learn. The people you get to know, you might just have the great personality that when you step on that in that arena, that the president of the company, or who's in charge of the project, might just connect with you because of chemistry. So that's some great advice right off the bat, is to accept those positions that may not have the big title and everything.
Mhm.
You know,
And it
one of
may not be something that you're interested in initially, but be open to
Mhm.
learning it because it'll come in handy. It makes you more valuable in any environment when you have skill sets where you can do more than one thing. Right? We call it wearing many hats.
Mhm.
It's good to know that, especially if you want to embark on something as an independent and do it yourself.
Great. Yes, you just have to do a lot of things. One of the questions I want to ask in terms of producing now, you have quite the client list. And why don't you share with everyone some of the people that you've worked with? And then tell us, what exactly does a producer do?
Okay, let's start with it's interesting. I growing up in Los Angeles,
Mhm.
I had a lot of friends who knew right off the bat that they wanted to be in the entertainment industry. And
Mhm.
as they were going to film school at USC and they were working on their projects and they're going, Judy, you'd be a great producer. And I'm like, well, what does a producer do? Because that's a question everybody wants to know.
Mhm.
And as I started working with films and helping filmmaker friends of mine who literally I got pulled into producing because they're like, we need somebody who can manage things.
Mhm.
So I'm like, okay, well, what does that mean? Essentially, a producer does everything. They do everything a lot of people don't want to do, is what I always jokingly say. But you have to be one of those people where you're good with scheduling, you're good with people, you're good with managing projects, project managing, just oversight, making sure that everything works, filling in the gaping holes, being willing to step in and do everything and anything.
Wow.
It's really hard to say, well, as a producer, you have these 3 strict job duties, right? And that may be your primary purpose, but whatever needs to be done for that production, that's what you sometimes have to do. Because, let's face it, not all of us have the luxury of working on projects where you've got 500 people working on a film and everybody has one specific job. A lot of times when you're talking about independent projects and low budget film projects or short films, it's all hands on deck and whoever can do it, that's what you do.
Wow, that is some really good advice for our up and coming filmmakers. And I say up and coming because it has no age limit, because I have
Right.
run into people at the San Francisco Black Film Festival that have started making films after 50 years old. So,
Mm-hmm.
up and coming people need to hear this, and need to be reaffirmed that you're doing everything to make things happen. Everybody has to just step in. Hopefully that is affirming our audience of filmmakers that are listening in and everything. So I
I mean,
asked.
I was an event planner, right? I would produce corporate events.
Okay,
And
okay.
that, when my film friends found out, whoa, wait, you know how to do that? You'd be a great producer. And I'm going, really? I don't know. But you're thinking about things like managing the budgets,
Mhm.
coordinating the logistics, dealing with the talent, making sure that accommodations are where they need to be, making sure everything is operating. It's just a myriad of responsibilities and duties. Now, one of the things I learned early in my life is every job you've ever done is transferable to
Oh,
whatever it is you want to do, right? So
mhm.
if you're a lifeguard and you're like, well, I want to go work, I don't know, in the White House. Okay, well, you need to have some people skills, right? You know that you need to be aware of your surroundings. Like, how do those skills of whatever it is you're doing translate to whatever it is you want to do? Think a little bit open. I hate to say that use metaphor about think out of the box, but
Mhm.
it's important to do that. It's important to be aware that you may not have experience in this one area, but you have really invaluable skills that are transferable.
Right, great. That's some great advice too. That everything you go through in life in terms of jobs, learning, there's some aspect of it that you can take into the ultimate position that you're looking to be at. So that's really good. Just piggybacking on all of that, being able to do everything, no matter what. What are who are some of the people that you've done that for in terms of who you've worked with? In the
Mm,
business that you'd like to share and everything. I've heard a few names here and there, but well, what
You
comes to
know, we
mind to you in terms of people that have recognizable names that people will know that, oh,
I've
Judy's
worked on
working in the background on this.
yeah, I've worked on a lot of film projects, and I never say it's me, right? It's
Mhm.
a team. So it's always a group. So when people say, well, who have you worked with? I always say we work because again, it's a team effort. So we've done a number of things for Kevin Hart. That was fun
Oh,
working on, his first big projects that came out the gate. We were there at Usual Suspects Productions producing a lot of stuff for Universal and Lionsgate and doing things with a lot of comedy shows and live television productions where we got to meet a lot of celebrities and things like that. And one of the One of the interesting things about me is I don't get caught up on celebrity, and you can't in this field. You really can't. You know, you can give people their respect, you can honor what they do, but you can't come into this seeking to be celebrity adjacent.
Hmm.
It's like
Okay.
you need to come in here with your business cap on, with your mindset cap on. You know, I had one of my favorite people, actor, comedians ever in life. Um, I worked on 3 projects with him. And it wasn't until the 4th that we finally connected. He said, Judy, you know, why haven't we really ever spoken or had any conversations? And I
Hmm.
was like, well, to be honest with you, you know, I didn't know how you were going to be. If you were going to be a jerk, I would be really disappointed and I wouldn't like your talent anymore. And he just laughed because he has a great sense of humor. And, you know, it was Dion Cole. I mean, I love him. He's just
Okay.
one of the nicest, most gracious people. And that's also something on the talent side, right?
Hmm.
Remember to be nice to the people who are there to help you and support you, because they may be in a position to hire you for a film, or they may remember that you were disagreeable and you were mean to them. And now that they've moved up and they're in a position where they can bring you in, you may be the last person on their list because of how difficult you were and how outrageous. So when we're coming into this, we can't read our own press. We have to temper what we're doing and just be there with the mindset of, we're here to do a good job. We're here to give our best performance on screen and behind the screen, and just make sure we're doing what's right so we can get to the end game, which is creating a beautiful story, a beautiful project, just putting something out there that's amazing.
Wow, I'm almost teary-eyed listening to that, working together to create a beautiful story, because there's so many wonderful stories in the African diaspora that
So
really
many.
they don't get into the mainstream narrative very often, and that's one of the reasons that I respect the San Francisco Black Film Festival from the very beginning. The mission was to make sure it was a platform for people of all races to come together to experience the African diaspora and our
Mhm.
stories that aren't always told. So that is a very key and important emphasis, I think, you know, the fact that we do have beautiful stories and that it takes teamwork and to respect people. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, right? Uh,
Amen.
yeah, because you never know how over time things change, and somebody that you hired might need to be in a position to hire you later. So that's a very good advice for our filmmakers, and the whole idea of working together as a team and not to read your own press and take it seriously. You
Right.
know,
Because it's
that's a
not that serious.
yeah, exactly. You know, you've owned your company for a while now,
About 12
and
years.
12 years. That is more than a decade. That's really phenomenal. Now, in owning your own business, starting out, what's some advice you might give to people starting out in the entertainment world?
Again, learn as much as you can. Just learn as much as you can. Get as much experience as you can. Build those relationships and build sincere, real relationships, right?
Hmm.
Um, there are people who are going to approach you just to be with you because they know that you have access to someone, or they know that you know someone. Those disingenuous, I'm going to know you because you can do something for me.
Exactly.
Try offering something back. It's a
Mm,
give and take, right?
exactly.
You know, again, sounding a little more LA, you get back what you put out there,
Yeah. Yeah. You know,
period. And it may take a long time for that to come back to you, but you do get back what you put out there. And if you go out there with the intention and the pure heart that you're doing this for the right reason, and we know that we get lost because we live in a capitalist society, right? And it comes down to when we're dealing with the corporatization of our art forms, be it film or music or anything, it then becomes about the dollar, but
mhm,
it needs to be about the passion and the art, because that's what these stories are about. That's what they're built from. That's what we should be focusing on. So
mhm,
if you really think about, I'm going to do this for the right reason,
mhm.
you're going to bode well and be more successful. You
Exactly.
know, throughout my journey of being in entertainment on both the music and the film side and everything else, I've seen that people who come into it with the wrong intentions, where it's like, I'm just here to get paid. You know, I'm here for the hustle. I'm here for the money. It's going to be quick money. It doesn't work that way.
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
is a long, arduous process. Or the people who buy in, right? The
Hmm.
people go, well, I've never touched a film set in my life, but I'm going to give my money and I want every credit on there. That
Yeah.
is the most disrespectful thing to people who have been toiling and honing their craft for many years, to step in and go, well, I want a producer credit because I gave you money.
Yeah.
Embarrassing.
Yeah.
Like, it's ridiculous. It's like going, well, I'm going to be a dentist now because I just gave somebody $30,000. So I should be able to put up a shingle. And you've got so many people in this industry who know nothing about it.
Hmm.
You
Exactly.
know, it's just, they're IMDb bandits. It's like, well, let me just let me puff my chest up because I can put down that I've done this and I've done that. And it's like, wow, what you find, as you do in any industry, is the people who are actually doing things are too busy doing things to brag about it. They're not
Exactly.
spending that time
Exactly.
to puff themselves up and to make it, you know, you don't have to pitch anybody. If you're good at what you do, people know, people see it. They're going to come
Yeah.
find you.
Exactly. Speaking of which, I have found you as a result of a new friend, and I will not say his name because he has
Right.
really, in our conversations of working on some projects, most so recently, he's like, I'm a behind the scenes person. I
Right.
don't need anybody to know my name, this and that. And of course, I would love to just say his name right now, but I'm going to leave it at that. But, Judy, one of the things, in terms of experiences that you have had, what are some of the things that, were kind of hard lessons for you? Maybe you didn't have any, but anything that
Oh
you
no,
can
oh
share,
no, oh no, 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 no,
those hard
no.
lessons that kind of taught you.
When
Share
you
some
are
of those
Black in
for
the entertainment industry, there is this myth that you should be pledged, right? You
us.
go through something, and instead of somebody stopping it, right? Nobody's stopping the pain. They're all going to sit there quiet while you go through it because they go, well, I went through it.
Hmm.
And that's an ignorant behavior that we have got to stop. You know, the same way that any industry knows where the devils are, who the bad people are, the people who don't pay, the people who lie, the people who molest, who do engage in all sorts of horrific behaviors. Everybody always knows where those people are, but nobody says anything.
Hmm.
Everybody stays quiet. So you become complicit in that.
Hmm.
And that's wrong and that's bad, because there are younger people who are coming up, who come to this industry, who are naive, who don't have those relationships, who may not know these things. But if you know it, you've got to stop and prevent that person from feeling that pain and that hurt. Because when you do that, when you sit back and just let anything happen and go, well, I got through it, they need to,
Oh, wow.
you're cutting off potential stories. You don't know what that person could have been had they not have been so discouraged that they fell by the wayside or
Mhm.
decided not to even speak on it at all.
Yes.
You know, you're doing more harm than good. And we've got to build this circle of something where we're supporting each other in what we do. And we have to be responsible about it. But
Ex-
yeah, I mean, the worst lesson is, you work your butt off on a film project and somebody walks off with most of the money and they're offering you 50 cents on the dollar, if you even can get that, or
Mhm.
people starting projects without the proper funding. And
Mhm.
it usually comes down to economics, which is the worst thing that you can do for a group of people who have always had to deal with economic disparity in this country, right? So
Yeah.
we start off with less than, but then when we're trying to build, and we've got other people look like us not quite treating us fairly either, that's disheartening. And it's hard
Yeah, that
because
is a hard lesson to find out, that not all skin folk are kinfolk. Somebody
definitely
that
not.
looks like you, that doesn't necessarily have the betterment of people like you. So that
And you've
that
got
is
to have an
hard.
yeah, sorry, Jackie, you've got to have an NDA. You
Mhm.
know, don't run out there telling everybody your good ideas. You know,
Okay.
when you're young and you're excited and you're like, oh, I'm gonna tell everybody I got this great idea. You will look up and your great idea will be on television. Your good idea will be somebody else's movie. You send that script around without registering it with the Writers Guild and doing the proper paperwork to protect yourself, you're gonna lose out.
Now you use the term NDA. Explain that to us.
Non-disclosure agreement,
You
which
have to have,
basically protects both parties. You should always, before you open your mouth about anything, right? And that's a lesson I learned in business on the corporate side of business. Just maybe it was entertainment because it's a media company, but you always have a and it's the same thing in the tech industry, a non-disclosure agreement. You don't sit there and discuss projects and ideas or do anything unless you have something in writing. And that still may not 100% protect you, but it gives a good deterrence, and it also gives your lawyer or yourself a defense in case someone steals your idea or your intellectual property. That's
wow.
why I say it's important to know as much as you can, particularly about the business that you're about to walk into.
Great, great. You know, that is some great information, and it really gives me an opportunity to extend an invitation to you in the future. Hopefully, when things, the non-COVID days
Sure.
are, you know, behind us a little more, I'd love for you to fly up to San Francisco and,
Yes.
you know, share hands-on with the filmmakers at the San Francisco Black Film Festival. And we're one of the ideas that Cree Ray and Callie Ray Jr. have in mind is that they want to have some events throughout the year, and not just the festival once a year, which is usually Juneteenth, Father's Day weekend, and everything. So you have an
That
open
is
invitation.
amazing. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And I would absolutely be honored. And it's really important, like the San Francisco Black Film Festival and any medium that we have that is enabling our folks to actually understand the business, to get that exposure is going to be critical, because right now we're going into this wonderful, amazing phase of the entertainment industry that I don't think any of us has ever seen before, where we have such a high amount of content going out the door.
Mhm.
There's more content than there is networks, and and the networks may disagree and go, no, there's not enough content, but that's okay because everybody's keeping up with the pace. I sat here and I thought, wow, I've got a year off. I'm going to watch everything I want. I couldn't get through half of my watch list and my bookmarks on any of the platforms because there's just so much to see and so much to look at. So as we know that these doors are opening and these opportunities are there for us, and we've got amazing people setting up these wonderful funds like Jeff Friday, who has the American Black Film Festival, who just
Mhm.
partnered to help young filmmakers and to create holes for content for us. And Charles King with his group that's, they're making a way and paving it financially to help some
Ex-
young people make some stories. It's
Exactly.
imperative for us to do what we can to try to help teach them how to do it right and to hold on to as much of their intellectual property and even preserve their stories as they can, and to get our stories told in a meaningful way.
Exactly.
One of the other strange experiences that I had was when you're, and this is probably the most important thing anyway, when you're creating any product, be it a film, a record, a technology piece, think about when you're writing that. And even if you've completed, you don't think about this ahead of time. Think about who is your audience.
Mm,
Identify who is going to want to see this. Because one of the things that I've heard a lot when I was working with distributors and, trying to get films picked up and distributed, or trying to market films for distributors, is, they didn't quite know who the audience was.
mhm, mhm.
And you don't want anybody to say, well, who's going to watch that? You need to be
Exactly.
aware. You need to know. You need to tell them. You need to guide them. You need to
Right.
say, this is who this is for. This is who would be interested in that.
Yes, you know, that is some excellent information for somebody who has brought a lot of national initiatives to the forefront in terms of brand management. So, who is your audience? You know, and you mentioned something about, you know, the various groups that are now trying to tie in financing to help as well. And it made me think about two new entities that the San Francisco Black Film Festival reached out to last year under Kali Aray's leadership, and that is the Durban International Film Festival and
Fabulous.
the Durban Film Mart. And what I love about both
Amazing.
of those organizations is that they look at ways to tie in the financing to help up and coming filmmakers and everything. And through their relationship with the San Francisco Black Film Festival, it's just one indication of the fact that they are reaching out to the global African diaspora or the global
Hmm.
world in terms of the Durban International Film Festival. It's not just an African film festival or just Black people. It's open to
Right.
everyone, and so that just gives a lot of information and impetus for the fact that these film festivals also do impact finances. They
Yes.
stimulate tourism
Hmm.
and the learning that goes on, you know, just as you had described. So it's really tremendous, you know, and
And
I,
it helps us share our culture and our stories, right?
yes.
Because we are so US focused, we forget that there's a whole world out there.
Hmm.
We forget that there's dozens of other countries besides this one. And there are people who will care about our stories and want to hear our stories. And, you know, I remember as late as 10, 12 years ago, I would hear a lot of times, well, you know, those type of movies don't do well overseas. And
Mm.
I'm going, what do you mean? Like independent films? You know, and I'm just trying to nail down what it is they're talking. Well, you know, you need a big star. It was always this litany of bad advice that
Hmm.
we were constantly given about what somebody determined that they think would sell or be of interest to a culture that they didn't represent. And
Yes.
I just found that amazing. And I didn't believe it and I wouldn't believe it. And you know, when you look at how movies with largely cast of color fare well internationally at box office,
Hmm.
it kind of shoots down a lot of those arguments. Well, you know, those
Exactly.
type of
What,
movies don't do well.
yeah,
We
you
don't
know,
get a chance to.
clear up the narrative. Let's get the truth out there.
Right.
Which reminds me, you know, you were talking about various cultures, you know, and the fact that there is more openness than what the traditional, maybe Hollywood
Hmm.
mentality was about Black people and
Hmm.
how we would be received overseas, which brings me to one of your talented people that you are working with. Now, I want to share with the audience this information, this song, this young man that you are cultivating.
Yes.
Yes, Taji. And I'm gonna share my screen, and we're gonna take advantage of the technology that we can have with YouTube and everything. And then I'm just gonna let the audience experience it themselves, and then I want you to basically, you know, tell me a little bit about it in terms of your impression and everything. So we're just gonna go ahead and get started on this right away. Let me get the right uh, level I want, and here we go.
Yo, being slave in the millions wasn't enough to kill the resilience. Through songs on a plantation, evolving from tribal rhythms. Cotton and scat singing, surviving the transportation of a nation through 300 years of cultural castration. Gospel to jazz, R&B to soul, was still vibing, surviving oppression and manifesting in street jiving on the streets of the South Bronx. And the sun that was still rising in the east and shining an ancestral soul that was still thriving. Resistance on the tongue, transformed into ill rhyming. Just cause it's blood on them, it don't mean they ain't still diamonds. Gotta get back to the grinding, get back to the meaning by reaching back into the soul of the place with a heart beating, with a sunrise. Brothers leaking on the canvas, got rich off it, heads was getting geeked off this madness. Took me to the south, and I fought till I was free, but they had my deed branded, so the streets where I landed. Gave me bread to exploit my freaks for their cameras. Gave me jewels to flash as long as I keep dancing. Then I realized I first found my footing in the east on the atlas, where I still had a lease on that black fist. So I went back and took my teeth out that sandwich and sunk them into the beat on the streets where the sun ravished. Understand this, the culture can't take much more damage. So when you pray, face east for peace and the bandage with the sunrise.
Na mimi ninajivunia na vitu vingi navyoona kwenye hii dunia. Hakika wewe ndiye uliyetuzalia. Milima na mabonde umetupatia, bahari, misitu, madini umetupatia, gesi na mbuga za wanyama umetupatia, mafuta na vyakula navyo umetupatia. Historia yako wengi wanaijua, wanakutumia na bado wanakubagua, lakini upendo wako kwao hujakuja. Nakuita mama ndo maana hujakuja.
They said it first, niggas are scared of revolution. The last poets, the Egyptians, of rap's evolution. Poems over beats, roaming over the streets. Scroll the public enemies, scroll the F the police. Then a stolen identity, then brutalized by the beast. Looking west for solutions when the truth lies in the east. Now hip hop is just a name, cause years ago it was slain. And I didn't murder hip hop, but I'm fitting to kill the game.
Isn't that something?
I love it. I do. I love it. Every time I see it, I'm mesmerized by it. And it's just, he's an amazing artist and such an intelligent young man and such a musical scholar. And literally, the story behind this piece is phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Well, I want you to tell us a little bit about that. Hopefully people will go and look for this as well. This has really been, I don't know if you heard me, but I almost laughed out loud because that smile of his is so engaging when he threw his head back and
yes,
like, oh, this is so beautiful. So
yes,
I really, really appreciate the fact that you are introducing such talent. And so tell me a little bit about, in terms of this talent, where did you find him? And just Tell me about a little bit of the backstory on this, Judy.
Yeah, a little tiny thing. I love music. Everyone who knows me knows I love music. I am so passionate about music. Like that's my thing. And I met him because a former executive I had introduced me to him and said, "Hey, this young man is really talented. He could probably use your guidance because, I am that person who will teach. It's important to teach. It's important to educate because that's one area where you have got to know what you're doing. There's royalties, there's ways that you can get paid. There's just so much to it. And when I talked to this young man, we just clicked because he's sincere, he's honest, he's passionate, he's grounded, he knows who he is, he wants to tell positive stories. And there's a rap has evolved, rap and hip hop has evolved, right? And he's more of the conscious rapper type of person where he's got the flow, he knows how to produce the beats, but he wants to talk about things that matter and things that are intelligent. And when he told me about this project that he was working on, he had this dream where he wanted to connect the origins of hip hop to Africa. And he had this vision of what he wanted to do, and he wanted to make a music video about it. And it's such a beautiful artistic piece. I think it's more than a music video because there's some historical knowledge in there and there's some elements. But what's interesting is the way that it was made. He largely did everything behind this. When he made it over to Africa to film it, his crew backed out and didn't come with him. So he taught his 8-year-old nephew how to be the cameraman. So you're seeing some amazing camera work from a child.
Wow.
So when adults say they can't do something, I look back and I go, that little boy is going to be an amazing cinematographer at some point. And the beautiful thing about this is Taji actually chronicled a lot of the detail behind it on his blog and on YouTube. So you can hear the stories and all of the things that they went through, where the power went out. And you had people in the village who came to his aid to help him get things done. And that's beautiful. Here's a stranger, but they didn't look at him as a stranger. They looked at him as, this is our brother who's coming here to tell a story that we support, that we know needs to be told. And we're excited that you're telling it. So we're going to circle around you and make it happen.
Now that was Senegal that he went to.
Yes, yes.
Senegal. So that's really really wonderful. The story, the visuals, and to find out an 8-year-old was doing a lot of camera work is amazing.
Right.
And then the other thing that comes out of this for me too is the fact that he didn't stop. Although the people that had committed to working with him backed out at the last minute, he went on and he found the gift of the villagers that were there to help him. And who knows, probably the story might have been different if his original crew had come along. So
his sister came, she showed up and helped out. It was a family affair. When it came down to the editing, he couldn't find anybody to help him edit it the way he wanted it edited. So he learned how to do it himself. So the post took a little bit longer because he was teaching himself how to do it. And when you see the finished product, it's amazing. It's outstanding.
Exactly. Wow. Your talent, your artists are really somebody that I do want to share, especially this particular one that has an African theme. My friends at Durban International Film Festival and Durban Filmmark will be hearing from me soon. Hopefully you have an opportunity to talk with you, and then also sharing the talent and everything. Taji did just such an excellent job. I'm almost emotional to the point of not carrying on this conversation as I should, but let me gather myself because it just speaks so much. I think about the fact that you said it was his family that helped him. I think about the fact that the San Francisco Black Film Festival is born out of a family. Cree and Kali Jr. are carrying on the work of their father and their grandmother in San Francisco, where you do not see a lot of transference from one generation to the other
Yes.
of businesses, of organizations, or entities, with so much that has happened with so many Black people, less than 5% now. You think about all of the businesses that were on film, or I think about Mrs. Dew's hats, when she left us,
Yeah.
there was no, it wasn't transferred. And there were so many other businesses and so many other companies and opportunities that left with the people that went to other places. So that whole thing of family working together, Judy, you and Taji have hit a note in my heart today. And
Thank you.
I just want to share a little bit more because just the very title of this work by your other artist, Cecily. Now, I just want to go ahead and share this as well. And I want you to speak to, speak to this as well, when we get a moment here after I have pressed all
Because
the
essentially what we did is, I've got talented artists,
buttons.
and it's almost impossible to get music placement in a lot of films and things like that, especially if you're not a known artist.
Yeah.
So, the rationale is, okay, instead of waiting for somebody to invite you to the table, build your own table.
I love that. And with that advice, I think let's see how Cecily has built her table.
Oh, it's amazing.
Learning to choose love over fear.
Cecily, I think we need to take this relationship to the next level.
I don't know.
See, that's why you confuse me. It's like 1 minute, I feel like you love me. The next minute, I don't know. I mean, I know I love you. I just need to be sure that you love me too.
I don't know if I'm ready. To love without knowing how to love wounds the person we love. Please forgive my clumsy fingers. They can hold a heart. The more I want it, the more they tremble. Insecure from the start, so I can know it. If I don't know myself, I can hold it. I can hold myself. I can love you, yeah. I don't love myself. I don't love myself the way I should. Please forgive my clumsy fingers. I can hold a heart. The more I want it, the more I tremble. Insecure from the start. Forgiveness enables us to release all the baggage we carry that serves as a barrier to healing. Tiptoe to my hurt place, soft spot lips are gentle, touching moments turn to cold. Every feeling has a story, a mistake I've come to own. I've forgiven one by one. I don't have to be alone. I forgive myself for abandoning him. I forgive myself for falling over drunk. I forgive myself for lying. I forgive myself for deciding to flunk. I have more love than regret. I have more love than regret. I have enough love, enough love, enough love. I have enough love to set myself free. I have enough love, enough love, enough love. I have enough love to set myself. Love is kind.
Wait, before you scroll away, Democratic headquarters urgently needs you to sign this petition to protect.
Love is generous. Fear is selfish. Love is unconditional.
How do you feel?
Great, actually. Really good, really good.
Well, you look amazing.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Have you heard from Nasir?
No, I haven't heard from him in a long time, actually. Saw you strolling from afar. Dip, the glide, the bounce, then your smile lifted high. To cradle every ounce of me caught up in worry of what has yet to be. Every piece of me that feels what I cannot see. So the question is, can I deal with me? So I don't slow down the growth of you and me. 'Cause I know I love you, dear, in a place that can't be moved. And I know that it's sincere, 'cause you have nothing to prove. So I let go of control and fall into what's meant to be. There's no room for fear when you're loving me. Hey,
What's up?
I miss you.
I miss you too.
Understanding is love's other name. I offer you my time, sweetness if you need to cry. But laughter is fine. We'll just follow the signs. I offer you my silence, no remedy, no offense. Don't try to make sense. Just speak until you're cleansed. 'Cause the world may reject Acceptance, acceptance, long Cause the world may reject you, but you reject yourself too. Here, here, darling, is something new.
Wow.
Acceptance, acceptance, long
Let the credits roll. That is
Mhm.
absolutely fabulous. Just beautiful.
Beautiful and done by women,
Wow.
Black women crew.
Really?
Yeah.
All
And
right.
the scene where
Queen.
they're out in the grassy area that was a former plantation. And Cecily said when it was important for them, for her to film there, because again, it's paying homage, it's acknowledging this is where our ancestors were. And she said when they got there that she basically said a prayer and thanked them and said, we're going to bring some honor to this place that was a place of pain, and it's beautiful. She'll have to explain it to you one day, but it is just
Oh,
the
wonderful.
thoughtfulness of every step of that went into that.
It
And I
was-
loved her afro at the end. I was like, oh my gosh, I want that fro. But every single thing, all the costume design, like everything, all Black women, that was important for her to build out a Black woman crew to tell her story.
Wow, that is absolutely sensational. Great work, and a lot of just universal information from,
Hmm.
awakening, love, understanding, accepting yourself. That's something that everybody goes through, and it's not about color. And it just really reemphasizes the San Francisco Black Film Festival that gives a platform for artists to be able to speak a universal story or stories, and it's not about just the color of your skin. So
Exactly.
it's absolutely wonderful. As I was listening to her, I thought about Lettucey, who is in the East Bay, who just recently
Hmm.
got a Grammy. I thought about her when I was looking at that, and then I felt like I had a little bit of a Beyonce
Yeah,
happening
and her
too.
vocal range is
Uh,
very
yeah,
Denise
yeah.
Williams, Minnie Riperton.
Oh,
When she's
yes,
really
yes.
doing her thing, I was like, my gosh,
I could
that
hear loving
voice.
you. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
She can hit those notes.
Exactly. Exactly. Just a tremendous range, and it just makes me teary eyed just to look at all of the beautiful talent that there is that you've never heard of before. And,
Hmm.
and I'm so thankful for the San Francisco Black Film Festival being able to give platforms for such talent to come forth. And we just hope that it grows bigger and stronger, that it will be one of the go-to places for new talent to experience, with the older and established talent, because we do
Yes.
have friends like Danny Glover, who often stops through and helps out. And I am so full about this because you know how the embedding of the story, the fact that she was at a plantation and she brought a beautiful experience from
Hmm.
Black women who were on this land where there were many tears and a lot of suffering and everything that went on. So that's really great, and it reminds me of the fact that the film festival also has special guests, the mayor of San Francisco, who happens to be a Black
Yay.
woman, and then also Dana King, who is a
Hmm.
sculptor, who is also a
Yes.
Black woman. And what's so beautiful about what you just said about the plantation and regaining that ground and making it a place of peace and of honor is the fact that there is a installation, a public art installation that's going to be happening on Juneteenth. And
Wow.
it is called Monumental Reckoning, and it's by Dana King, 350
Yes.
that are going to be in Golden Gate Park around the former the podium for the former statue where the statue of Francis Scott Key
Oh,
stood for, I believe, 150 years.
yeah.
And we know through some of the experiences that have happened around bending of the knee or not bending of the knee, that song has in it some things that are the Star Spangled Banner has in it some things that are detrimental to
Hmm.
the spirit of Black people. And so here it is, this Juneteenth, I think it's around the 100th birthday of James Weldon Johnson, that these particular sculptures that represent 350 um, I'm losing my thought here, but 350 ancestors,
Hmm.
the original 350 that were kidnapped from Africa. They are going to be represented in Golden Gate Park, and they're also
Oh,
trying to include in it a lighting portion of this public offering that will have Lift Every Voice that
oh,
represents James Weldon Johnson. And of course, his song is a song that is more humanitarian and it is uplifting for everybody. And it's not just a Black song. So you
mhm.
touched a lot of touch points here for me personally. So I want to thank you very much for being a part of Live Talk at SFBFF, and truly your artist, and you are new BFF for the San Francisco Black Film Festival. And before we end this, and I don't want to because we could just go on and on artistically, but
Yes.
is there any statement that you'd like to make, Judy?
Yes, definitely. You know, we put emphasis, and I think collectively we all put emphasis on Black and Black American, right? But we know that what we create here, being Americans, is part of the American story.
Exactly.
But America isn't necessarily willing to celebrate us the way that we should be celebrated or acknowledged. So by wrapping Black around it, it enables us to go off and to be able to celebrate it ourselves and
Right.
to uplift our folks. But always be mindful that our contributions are contributions to this country. They're American contributions, our music, our art, our fashion, our influence, our food, our all of it,
Wow.
all of it.
All of it. Did you hear it,
Mhm.
everybody? All of it. And on that note, I would say that, our and on that very excellent note of yours, Judy, I just want to thank you on behalf of the San Francisco Black Film Festival with sharing your knowledge, sharing your talent, and we look forward to working with you in the future. And so everybody, please tune in to Live Talk at SFBFF. We are uploaded on the internet, and you're going to find out some very wonderful things just with a few things that we will be talking about. So thanks again, Judy, and we look
Thank
forward
you.
to you coming in real life as
Yes.
we move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you.